In a world where deception runs deep and bodies drop without a trace, only the real survive. Some chase the truth, others bury it. But in the end, no secret stays hidden forever, because justice doesn't wait, and neither do we. Welcome to Survival of the Realest. I woke up to the sound of my own breathing, shallow, ragged, and laced with pain. My head throbbed like a war drum, and the coppery taste of blood clung to my tongue. Darkness wrapped around me like a straitjacket, the air thick with the stench of sweat, mildew, and something metallic. Then came the voice, low, measured, and cold as a corpse. "You're in a bad way, detective." Detective. That's right. Name's Victor Reyes. And I was supposed to be dead. My hands were tied behind my back, the rope cutting deep into my wrists. I shifted, testing the restraints, but the effort only made my ribs scream in protest. Someone had worked me over real good, the kind of bruising that only comes with intent. Footsteps circled me. A match flared in the darkness, illuminating a face I wished I didn't recognize. Carlos Mendez, a mid-tier enforcer for the Guerrero cartel. Except now, he wasn't just some thug doing muscle work. He was running the show. "We got a problem, Reyes." He exhaled, the cigarette smoke curling like a noose around my head. "Your little informant got snatched." I kept my expression blank, but my gut twisted. Informant, that was one way to put it. Javi Morales wasn't just some stool pigeon feeding me scraps. He was the king of the streets, a cartel boss who climbed his way up by spilling blood in buckets. And now, he was someone else's hostage. You expect me to cry about that? My voice came out hoarse, but I made sure it carried the right amount of venom. Carlos smirked. "You should, because if he starts talking, your name's gonna come up. And if that happens, you won't be breathing long enough to regret it." So that was it. Morales had been taken, and now both sides, the law and the lawless, had a reason to want him silenced. And me? I was caught in the middle, right where I never wanted to be. Carlos crouched in front of me, his expression turning thoughtful. "See, the thing is, Morales is valuable, alive, but the people who took him, they don't know that yet. Who has him?" Carlos's grin widened, revealing a gold tooth that gleamed even in the dim light. "The Saints? Shit, the Saints were a rival gang. Meaner than rabid dogs and twice as unpredictable. If they had Morales, it wasn't just about power. It was personal. And personal meant messy. You want me to get him back?" I said, voice flat. Carlos tapped a cigarette against the edge of my chair. "Bingo. You're going to find him, Reyes. And you're going to do it fast. Because if he starts talking, or worse, if he dies before we get to him, you're the next one going into a shallow grave." A bitter laugh bubbled up in my throat. "So I'm working for the Guerrero cartel now? That it?" Carlos leaned in, his breath hot against my ear. "You were working for us the moment you let Morales slip through your fingers. Now, be a good little detective and clean up your mess." They cut me loose, but not before making sure I understood the terms. 24 hours to bring Morales back. If I failed, I was as good as dead. I stepped out into the cold night air, the city stretching before me like an open wound. First stop, the only person I could trust, Mia Vasquez. Ex-cop, sharper than a switchblade and twice as deadly. Her apartment was a fortress, steel-reinforced doors, security cameras, and enough firepower to take down an armored truck. She let me in without a word, her dark eyes taking in my bruised face. "You look like hell," she said, tossing me an ice pack. "Feel worse." I pressed it against my ribs and let out a slow breath. "I need your help." Mia folded her arms. "That usually means trouble. Morales got taken. The Saints have him. If I don't get him back, I'm dead." Her expression didn't change, but I caught the slight clench of her jaw. She had history with the Saints, and none of it was good. "Where do we start?" she asked. "We started with a name, Rico Valdez, a mid-level saint with a big mouth and a bigger temper. I found him in a dive bar on the east side, nursing a whiskey and glaring at the world. "Rico," I said, sliding onto the stool next to him. "Heard you've been busy." His fingers tightened around his glass. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Sure you do." I leaned in. "Morales. Where is he?" Rico chuckled, but there was no humor in it. "Even if I knew, what makes you think I'd tell you?" Mia moved fast, faster than he could react. 1 second, he was smirking. The next, his face was slammed against the bar, a knife pressed against his throat. "Start talking, Rico," she whispered. "Before I start carving." He spilled it quick, an old warehouse down by the docks. We got there in 15 minutes. The place was crawling with saints. Getting it was going to be a bloodbath. "We need a distraction," Mia murmured. I had one. I dialed Carlos. "We found him," I said. "Docks. Warehouse." Carlos didn't hesitate. "We're on our way." 15 minutes later, the night exploded with gunfire. The guerreros stormed the warehouse, bullets flying, bodies dropping. I slipped in through the chaos, Mia at my back. We found Morales tied to a chair, his face swollen, one eye nearly shut. "You're late," he croaked. "Traffic was a bitch," I said, cutting him loose. We were almost out when the final betrayal hit. Carlos. He stood at the entrance, gun raised. "Should have known," I muttered. Carlos shrugged. "Can't let Morales walk away. He knows too much. And you? You're a loose end." Before he could pull the trigger, a shot rang out. Carlos dropped, a hole between his eyes. Mia lowered her gun. "You hesitated," she said. "We didn't stick around." By morning, Morales was gone, vanished, like a ghost. And me? I had new enemies, fresh bruises, and the sinking feeling that this city would never let me go. But I was still breathing. And in this world, that was the only victory that mattered.